Ladies and gentlemen, listen, because this matters. You cannot go on living as a tool for other people's convenience and pretend it doesn't slowly destroy you. You're not a bottomless resource. You're not a disposable instrument. And the idea that you have to be endlessly agreeable, endlessly self-sacrificing, well, that's a lie. It's not virtue. It's cowardice dressed up in social camouflage. See, if you let yourself be used again and again, you train the world to treat you as expendable. And worse, you start believing you are. That's a dangerous place to be, because when resentment builds, when you've given too much and received nothing in return, it doesn't just rot your relationships, it corrodes your soul. It turns you bitter, and that bitterness, if left unchecked, becomes cruelty. So stop lying to yourself that being everything for everyone is noble. It's not. It's avoidance. It's fear. You're afraid of saying no, because you're afraid they'll stop liking you. You're afraid of asserting yourself because you've convinced yourself that your needs don't matter. But if you don't respect your own boundaries, why should anyone else? You must understand this. Your time, your energy, your attention, they are finite. You owe it to yourself to protect them. You don't need permission to value your existence. In fact, if you don't take responsibility for your life, someone else will. And they'll do it for their benefit, not yours. Being useful is not the same as being used. It's a profound difference. One is contribution with integrity, the other is exploitation. And if you confuse the two, you will burn out, and no one will come to save you. Begin by speaking the truth. Learn to tolerate the discomfort of disappointing others. Say no with clarity, not cruelty, because the world doesn't need more hollow shells pretending to be helpful. It needs people who stand up straight, shoulders back, and say, "This is what I can give and no more." So stop being used to everyone. You're not here to serve as their tool. You're here to become who you could be, if only you had the courage to stop betraying yourself. Protect your boundaries. You must set and enforce personal boundaries to prevent being exploited by others. If you don't protect your time and energy, others will use you for their own benefit. Self-respect. Value yourself and your needs. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. Being endlessly agreeable or self-sacrificing is a form of cowardice, not virtue. Stop avoiding conflict. Saying no is necessary for healthy relationships. Stop fearing disappointment or rejection from others. Your worth doesn't depend on their approval. Don't confuse being useful with being used. Being genuinely helpful and contributing with integrity is different from being exploited. Don't let others take advantage of your generosity. Take responsibility for your life. Stop allowing others to control your time and decisions. Your life is yours to shape, and you must make the conscious choice to stop betraying your own needs and desires. You cannot go through life without setting boundaries. Boundaries are not just a luxury. They are a necessity for your emotional, psychological, and physical well-being. It is easy to get caught up in the demands of the world, to feel like you must constantly give, accommodate, and please others. But if you don't set boundaries, you will eventually find yourself depleted, resentful, and unrecognizable to yourself. You have to understand that saying no is not a weakness. It's an act of self-preservation. Every time you give in to someone else's request at the expense of your own needs, you are diminishing your own worth. You are essentially telling yourself that your time, your energy, and your peace of mind are not valuable. When you live like this, constantly putting others first, you eventually lose touch with who you are, what you need, and what you stand for. It's not noble to deplete yourself for others. It's a form of self-betrayal. Setting boundaries is about taking responsibility for your own life and well-being. It's a recognition that your resources, your time, your energy, your focus are finite. You cannot be everything to everyone, and even if you try, you'll end up spreading yourself so thin that you become ineffective in every area of your life. you'll be tired, burnt out, and left with nothing to give. Worse, you will begin to resent those who have drained you, even though you allowed it to happen in the first place. That resentment is toxic, not only to others but also to yourself. The world is full of people who will try to take advantage of your generosity and kindness. And why not? If you allow them to, they will. People don't necessarily do this with malicious intent. They may not even be aware of how much they are demanding from you. But that doesn't change the fact that if you don't set limits, you will always be at the mercy of others' needs. You become the person who is always available, the one who always says yes, the one who can never say no without feeling guilty or selfish. But here's the truth: if you don't set boundaries, you are training others to treat you like an object, and they will take as much from you as you allow. This might seem harmless at first, but over time it erodes your sense of self-worth. You begin to believe that your role in the world is to serve others at all costs, and in doing so, you lose sight of your own purpose. That's a dangerous place to be. When you neglect your own needs, desires, and goals in favor of others, you're not only disrespecting yourself, you're setting yourself up for a life of frustration and resentment. The idea that you need to be constantly available and giving is an illusion. The more you sacrifice, the less you have left to give, and eventually you'll realize that you've given so much of yourself that there is nothing left. No one will come to save you when that happens. In fact, the people you've been trying to please will probably be the ones who walk away, because you've become nothing but a tool for their convenience. To break this cycle, you have to be intentional about your boundaries. You must decide what you will and will not tolerate, and that requires courage. It requires the strength to say no, even when it's uncomfortable. It requires the ability to prioritize your own needs without feeling guilty about it. You must be able to look someone in the eye and say, "I cannot do that for you," without justifying yourself, without feeling as though you owe them an explanation. This is not about being selfish in the negative sense of the word. It's not about disregarding others or being rude. It's about acknowledging that your own well-being matters. It's about being honest with yourself about what you can handle, what you can offer, and what you simply cannot do. By setting these boundaries, you are not only protecting yourself, you are also protecting the quality of your relationships. When you are constantly giving without limit, you might think you are helping others, but what you are really doing is enabling them to depend on you in ways that aren't healthy. People need to learn to take responsibility for their own lives as well. And when you set boundaries, you are teaching them that they cannot always rely on you to be their safety net. Setting boundaries is also about respect. It's about respecting your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. It's about understanding that you are worthy of those things just as much as anyone else. If you don't respect your own limits, how can you expect others to? When you continually allow yourself to be used without boundaries, you are sending a message that you don't value yourself enough to say no when necessary. The bottom line is this: your time is valuable. Your energy is limited, your mental health matters, and when you allow others to constantly take from you without any regard for your well-being, you are telling the world that you are not worth protecting. You must take responsibility for your own life, and that begins with setting clear and firm boundaries. Do not allow yourself to be used by anyone. Be intentional about who gets access to your time and energy. Protect yourself, and in doing so, you will begin to find a sense of peace and self-respect that will elevate every part of your life. You are worthy of respect, and this starts with valuing yourself. So often, People live their lives thinking that their worth is defined by how much they can give to others, by how much they can sacrifice in order to gain approval, affection, or validation. The truth is, if you don't value yourself, others won't value you either. It's a simple but profound reality that we often overlook. We find ourselves bending to others' needs, putting their expectations above our own, because we think that's what's expected of us, or because we're afraid of rejection if we assert our own desires and needs. But in doing so, we are telling the world, and ourselves, that we are not worth prioritizing, and that's a dangerous message to send. When you fail to value yourself, you fall into the trap of living your life in service of others' needs and desires. You lose sight of your own worth. You start seeing yourself as secondary, as a tool to be used rather than a person deserving of your own love and attention. You begin to define your identity through what you can do for others, rather than through who you truly are and what you stand for. And this is where the destructive cycle begins. When you constantly put others first at the expense of your own well-being, you begin to lose touch with yourself. You stop living for your own values and start living for the approval of others, and that approval can never be truly fulfilling. We are often told to be selfless, to give without expecting anything in return. But selflessness is not about depleting yourself for the sake of others. True selflessness comes from a place of abundance, not from emptiness. When you value yourself, you are able to give from a place of strength, not desperation. You have to learn to respect your own needs first before you can be truly present for anyone else. It's not about being selfish. It's about understanding that you matter, that your needs are just as important as those of anyone else. If you do not believe that you are worthy of respect, you will tolerate treatment that diminishes you. You will tolerate being ignored, being walked over, and being used. You will accept less than you deserve because you believe that is all you are worth. But that belief is based on a lie. The truth is that you are deserving of respect, love, and care, not because of what you do for others, but because you are human. You have value simply because you exist. If you want others to treat you with respect, you must first treat yourself with respect. You have to recognize that you are worthy of setting boundaries, of saying no, of standing up for yourself. You may think that respecting yourself in this way makes you arrogant, or that it will cause people to think you're selfish or difficult. But that fear comes from a place of insecurity and a lack of self-worth. People who truly respect you will respect your boundaries, your needs, and your values. The people who react negatively to you setting boundaries are the ones who are only interested in using you for their own gain. And those people will never truly respect you, no matter how much you give or sacrifice for them. Respecting yourself means knowing that you have your own dreams, desires, and values that need to be honored. It means acknowledging that your time, your energy, and your mental health are precious. It means giving yourself permission to put your needs first without feeling guilty or selfish. If you don't do this, if you keep allowing others to use you without recognizing your own worth, you will eventually become a shadow of yourself. You will lose your sense of identity and purpose. The people who surround you will take, and never give back. They will take advantage of your willingness to serve them, to please them, and to sacrifice for them. The only way to break this cycle is to learn how to respect yourself enough to walk away from situations that drain you, from relationships that don't honor you, and from people who do not treat you with the dignity and care you deserve. It's hard, yes. It's difficult to break away from the ingrained habit of constantly giving without receiving, but it is essential for your well-being. Self-respect is not something that comes easily or automatically. It takes effort, practice, and courage. You must actively choose to put yourself first, to protect your time and energy, and to stop tolerating behavior that undermines your worth. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being honest with yourself and others about what you need in order to thrive. When you value yourself, you are in a better position to help others because you have something to give. You won't be drained by the constant demands of others because you will be giving from a place of abundance, not depletion. The key is to stop seeking external validation and to start finding your validation from within. This means recognizing that you don't need approval from others to know that you matter. Your worth is inherent, not based on what you do for others. When you truly internalize this, when you understand your intrinsic value, you will stop allowing people to treat you as though you are disposable. You will stop sacrificing your needs for the sake of appeasing others, and ultimately, you will start living a life that is true to yourself, one where you can stand tall, proud of who you are and the boundaries you have set to protect your peace and well-being. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that avoiding conflict is the key to keeping the peace. We're often taught from a young age that saying no or asserting ourselves is rude, selfish, or inconsiderate. We learn to placate others, to swallow our discomforts, to accept situations that don't serve us, all in the name of avoiding conflict. But here's the truth. Avoiding conflict is not the same as maintaining peace. In fact, it's often the opposite. When you avoid conflict, you allow resentment to fester. You allow your needs and desires to be ignored, and you teach others that they can walk all over you without consequences. In the end, you're the one who pays the price for this avoidance, and it's a price you can't afford to keep paying. Conflict is an inevitable part of life. It's not something that can be avoided forever, and in many cases, it's something that must be confronted in order to create lasting solutions. When you fail to assert yourself in situations where you feel uncomfortable or disrespected, you're not making things easier for yourself. You're building a foundation of bitterness, resentment, and frustration. The longer you allow these feelings to build, the harder it becomes to face them, and the more you avoid standing up for yourself, the more your ability to do so weakens. But here's the thing, conflict doesn't have to mean confrontation. It doesn't have to mean shouting or arguing. Conflict is simply the process of asserting your boundaries and needs. It's about standing firm in who you are and what you're willing to tolerate. When you allow yourself to face conflict head on, you give yourself the opportunity to define your relationships and interactions in a way that is authentic and respectful. You become the architect of your life rather than a passive participant. Saying no isn't a sign of weakness or hostility. It's a powerful declaration of self-worth. It's saying, this is who I am, and I will not bend myself out of shape to meet someone else's expectations at the cost of my own well-being. Learning to say no is one of the most difficult but essential skills you can develop. It requires you to confront the discomfort of disappointing others, of possibly facing rejection or disapproval. But let me ask you this, what is more important, preserving your own integrity or maintaining the illusion of harmony by sacrificing your needs for the sake of others? It's important to understand that saying no doesn't mean that you're being rude or uncaring. It doesn't mean you're unwilling to help or be supportive. It simply means you're recognizing your limits and honoring them. When you say no, in a clear, confident manner, you are demonstrating self-respect and teaching others how to respect you as well. You're communicating that your time and energy are valuable and that you have the right to choose where you direct them. This is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of self-preservation. Over time, the more you practice saying no, the easier it becomes. It becomes a habit, a natural part of how you interact with the world. And as you grow more comfortable asserting your boundaries, you'll notice something remarkable. The people around you will start to respect you more. When you show that you value your time, your energy, and your needs, others will begin to recognize those same values in themselves. They will learn to respect you and your boundaries, and you will create healthier, more balanced relationships. The real danger comes when you don't confront conflict. When you keep saying yes to things that don't align with your values, when you keep bending to other people's demands out of fear of upsetting them, you slowly lose yourself. You start to disappear into the roles that others have defined for you, and you forget what it is that you truly need, want, and desire. Over time, this leads to a sense of emptiness. You'll feel like you're living for everyone else, but not for yourself. And the worst part is that you won't even recognize the person you've become. Let's be clear. Asserting yourself is not about being aggressive or hostile. It's about being honest. It's about telling the truth, even when the truth feels uncomfortable. It's about standing up for your needs and making sure that your voice is heard. And yes, that will create tension sometimes. It will make some people uncomfortable. But those are the people who don't value you enough to understand your right to express your needs. If they cannot accept that, if they cannot respect you when you draw the line, then they are not the people you should be prioritizing. The people who truly care about you will appreciate your honesty, and they will respect your boundaries. The discomfort of saying no is temporary, but the long-term consequences of saying yes to everything that comes your way are much more significant. When you constantly agree to things that you don't want to do, you start building a life that isn't yours. You become a puppet in other people's lives, and you lose the ability to direct your own story. So yes, saying no is uncomfortable, it's hard, it feels unnatural at first, especially if you're used to putting everyone else's needs before your own. But with practice, it becomes easier, and eventually you will find that it's the most empowering thing you can do for yourself. Don't shy away from the discomfort that comes with asserting yourself. Face it, embrace it. The more you do, the more you will come to understand the power of standing firm in your own truth. Conflict doesn't have to destroy relationships. In fact, it has the potential to strengthen them when handled with integrity. By saying no, when necessary, you are not only protecting your own well-being, but you are also fostering an environment where others can do the same. When you learn to honor your own boundaries, you create space for others to do the same, and that is the foundation of mutual respect and understanding. When you focus on being genuinely useful, not simply being used, you begin to shift your mindset from one of servitude to one of contribution. The distinction between the two is subtle, yet profound. To be useful is to offer something of value, something that aligns with your purpose and your values. It's about contributing to others in a way that is meaningful and authentic, where your actions are deliberate and intentional, not driven by the fear of being discarded or rejected. Being used, on the other hand, is when you allow others to take from you without consideration for your well-being or needs. It's when your time, energy, and resources are depleted without being replenished, and you end up feeling empty and exploited. Too often, we confuse the two, thinking that being constantly available, giving endlessly, and putting everyone else's needs ahead of our own is the same as being useful. We believe that the more we give, the more valuable we are, the more needed we become. But in reality, when we allow ourselves to be used, we aren't being helpful. We're enabling unhealthy patterns and relationships. We're giving away pieces of ourselves, expecting others to fill the void we create. We believe that if we give enough, if we are useful enough, others will appreciate us. But the truth is, when you're being used, appreciation is often absent. Instead, there's just an unrelenting demand for more, because when you allow yourself to be exploited, the value of what you give becomes diminished. To be truly useful, you must first acknowledge your own worth. You have to understand that your time, your energy, your expertise, and your emotions are all finite resources. They are valuable, and how you spend them should reflect that. Being useful is about choosing where to direct your resources in a way that serves both you and others in a balanced and meaningful way. It's about offering what you have from a place of abundance, not from a place of depletion. When you give because you truly want to contribute, and when you offer your help to those who genuinely appreciate it, you find a sense of fulfillment and purpose. The reward is not external validation or praise, it's the satisfaction of knowing that you've made a meaningful impact in someone's life. But being used is different. When you are used, you are serving others' needs at the expense of your own. You give without receiving, and often without even being asked. You may feel like you are being helpful, but in reality, you are allowing someone else to take advantage of you. This dynamic doesn't lead to mutual growth or fulfillment. Instead, it breeds resentment. Over time, when you continuously give to others without getting anything in return, whether it's appreciation, respect, or reciprocity, you begin to feel like an object rather than a person. You feel like you are there to serve others' needs, and your own needs are irrelevant, and that is a dangerous way to live. To break free from the cycle of being used, you must shift your mindset. You need to redefine what it means to be useful. Instead of focusing on fulfilling others' needs at the expense of your own, focus on how you can contribute in ways that align with your values and strengthen your sense of purpose. Being useful should not come from a place of self-sacrifice or fear. It should come from a place of choice and empowerment. You get to decide where your energy goes. You get to decide who you help and in what ways. This not only protects your well-being, but it also creates more meaningful and balanced relationships. A crucial part of this shift is learning to recognize when you are being used. Sometimes it's hard to see because we're conditioned to believe that being helpful means always saying yes, always giving more. We might feel guilty when we don't help, or we might fear disappointing others. But you need to develop the discernment to understand when helping is truly contributing and when it's simply enabling others to take without reciprocation. Ask yourself, are you giving because you want to or because you feel obligated? Are you helping because it's meaningful or because you fear rejection if you don't? These questions will help you evaluate whether your actions are coming from a place of genuine usefulness or from a place of fear and obligation. When you focus on being truly useful, you also learn to prioritize your own needs. You understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving without regard for your own well-being, you will eventually have nothing left to give. And when that happens, you're not only harming yourself, but you're also not truly helping anyone else. You are no longer serving with integrity. You are serving out of a sense of duty, resentment, and exhaustion. To be genuinely useful, you must first take care of yourself. This doesn't mean being selfish in the negative sense. It means being wise. It means recognizing that your time, your energy, and your resources are precious. You cannot keep giving endlessly without setting boundaries, without ensuring that you are replenishing yourself. Only when you are whole, when you are centered and grounded in your own values and needs, can you truly offer something valuable to others. Being useful also means being strategic about where you direct your energy. Not everyone will value what you offer, and that's okay. You don't need to be all things to all people. It's more effective to focus on the areas where you can make the greatest impact, where your skills, your knowledge, and your heart can truly make a difference. When you do this, your contributions are more meaningful, and the relationships you cultivate are healthier and more rewarding. By shifting your mindset from being used to being useful, you reclaim your power. You stop letting others dictate how you spend your time, and you start making choices that align with your true self. You choose to give from a place of abundance, and you choose to stop giving when it no longer serves you or the person you're trying to help. The world needs more people who are genuinely useful, not people who are simply used. And the difference between the two is not just in the actions, but in the mindset behind them. When you focus on what you can contribute in a meaningful and balanced way, you will find that the rewards are far greater than when you simply allow yourself to be used. Taking responsibility for your life is one of the most powerful and empowering choices you can make. It's a fundamental shift in perspective that transforms how you approach every aspect of your existence. For too long, many of us have been conditioned to look outward for solutions to our problems, for someone else to make decisions for us, or to place blame on circumstances, other people, or even fate. But the reality is, you are the one who holds the key to your life. The choices you make, the actions you take, and the direction you go in are entirely up to you. This is both an immense freedom and a tremendous burden. The freedom comes from knowing that you are in control of your own destiny, while the burden comes from understanding that you cannot escape the responsibility for your own life. It's easy to blame others or external factors for the difficulties we face. The world can feel overwhelming, and when things don't go as planned, it's tempting to point fingers or make excuses. But the moment you decide to take responsibility for your own life, you also reclaim your power. When you stop blaming, you stop being a victim. You become an active participant in your life story, rather than a passive bystander. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that your thoughts, decisions, and actions have consequences. It means recognizing that you have the ability to create change, to make things better, and to overcome the challenges you face. But it also means accepting that when things go wrong, it's up to you to fix them. This doesn't mean that everything is within your control. Life will throw curveballs, people will disappoint you, and circumstances will be difficult. But how you respond to those situations is where your responsibility lies. You cannot control the world around you, but you can control how you navigate through it. You can control the mindset you adopt, the values you uphold, and the effort you put into making the best of your situation. Taking responsibility means recognizing that you are not helpless in the face of adversity. You are not a passive observer waiting for someone to save you. You are the person who has the power to change the course of your life. This mindset shift requires a deep sense of self-awareness. It requires you to take an honest inventory of your life and ask yourself, am I taking responsibility for the outcomes I'm experiencing? It's easy to make excuses, to convince yourself that you're a victim of circumstances, or to focus on what others have done to you. But in doing so, you give away your power. You remain stuck in a cycle of helplessness. To break free from this, you have to start asking yourself the tough questions. What part did I play in this situation? What choices did I make that led to this outcome? What can I do differently next time? When you take this approach, you begin to see how much influence you actually have over your life, and you start to realize that the way forward is in your hands. Taking responsibility also means acknowledging that your time, energy, and resources are your own to manage. It means that you are the one who decides how to spend your days and how to prioritize your efforts. It's easy to get caught up in the demands of others, to be swept along by external pressures, and to give away your time without a second thought. But when you take responsibility for your life, you recognize that your time is precious. It's not something to be squandered. You get to decide what is worth your time and what isn't. You stop allowing others to dictate how you spend your days, and you start making intentional choices that align with your goals and values. This doesn't mean you stop helping others or being there for people you care about, but it does mean that you no longer let others take up your time without considering the consequences for yourself. One of the biggest obstacles to taking responsibility for your life is the fear of failure. Many people are afraid to take action because they fear making mistakes or not measuring up. But the truth is, failure is part of the process. It's a necessary step on the path to growth and success. When you take responsibility for your life, you embrace failure as a teacher. You understand that failure is not an indictment of your character. It's simply feedback that you can use to improve. The key is to take responsibility for how you respond to failure. You can either let it defeat you, or you can learn from it and use it as fuel for future success. Taking responsibility means refusing to let setbacks define you. Instead, you use them as stepping stones to move forward. Another important aspect of taking responsibility is recognizing that you are the one who sets the direction for your life. It's easy to get caught up in the expectations of others, whether it's family, friends, society, or the pressures of work and success. But when you take responsibility for your life, you stop living according to someone else's script. You start to create your own narrative. This is an act of courage. It means stepping away from the comfort of the crowd and charting your own course. It may not always be easy, and it will certainly require hard work and persistence. But when you make decisions based on your values, desires, and strengths, you start to build a life that is truly your own. Taking responsibility for your life also means letting go of the need for constant external validation. It's easy to seek approval from others, to base your worth on what others think of you. But when you take responsibility for your life, you stop relying on others for your sense of self-worth. You understand that your value is inherent and that it doesn't depend on others' opinions. You begin to trust yourself more, to make decisions based on what you know is right for you, not based on the expectations or judgments of others. In the end, taking responsibility for your life is about empowerment. It's about realizing that you are in control, that you have the power to change, to grow, and to create the life you want. It's about understanding that your actions matter, that your choices have consequences, and that you can shape your future. When you take full responsibility for your life, you stop blaming the world for your circumstances, and you start taking charge of your destiny. You become the creator of your own story, and that is the most liberating thing you can do. In conclusion, the journey to stop being used and to take control of your own life begins with the understanding that you are valuable, you are worthy of respect, and you are capable of making choices that honor your true self. It's about setting boundaries, embracing discomfort when necessary, and choosing to be genuinely useful rather than merely being used. When you take responsibility for your life, you reclaim your power, and you step into a future where your actions, your decisions, and your presence align with who you truly are. Life doesn't always come easy, and the path to self-respect, authenticity, and fulfillment can be challenging. But it is also the most rewarding journey you will ever embark on. You have the strength within you to stand firm in your values, to protect your peace, and to live a life that is true to yourself. So, don't wait for others to define your worth. Take responsibility for your own life, and never let anyone use you in a way that diminishes the greatness you are capable of achieving.